game, but in the like...
Like you can't actually play like Genji.
I can't play Genji
Overwatch.
in Overwatch, but I'm a monster Genji.
You're just like, yeah, I'm a Genji main, and here's the storm. But,
Right, but we're not there. We're gonna get into Nepal, Mega on the blue side, Yoshimoto on the red side, and already it is Yoshimoto coming out hot with that sort of that new meta on Village. Everyone wants to run this. It's the Reaper, it's the Hog, it's the Reinhardt with those two supports as well.
It's not actually the Bastion, though. I do expect to see that one changed off. The question is to what looks like... Hello. What have evil plans that hold?
I'm interested. You've sold me into the nah. I'll hold you to that one.
Is that really an evil plan, though? Because that sounds like...
It sounds pretty funny to me.
Sounds like a pretty great plan, all things considered. But actually, Apudo was on the Roadhog, just switching off to the Genji at the last minute there. So... And yeah, we're sort of seeing this exact kind of duality, but in the past it generally has been the tank lineup getting the presence on the point, and actually we even saw teams opting to swap off the dive in this exact same situation.
Well, it seems like Mega are going to stick onto this, and they're going to have to find their footing in. It's so hard to break into Reaper and Hog, double shotguns as a dive. You got to make this around, and so far, it's a good flank.
Oh, yeah, it was a good flank, but immediately straight into one of those two shotguns, plus the hook in now. Looking to just drill down Rocket.
Easy Cap.
Cap, yeah, going over. Mega maybe need to think about changing this lineup up here.
And already Apudo going on to the McCree, and we've seen the AKM versus Apudo matchup so far. It's been AKM shooting Apudo in the face. This could be a very late stagger result. Early pulse bomb, though. I hope Inzana is thinking about changing, because otherwise that pulse bomb was a little bit unnecessary. And Mega, sorry, actually, you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Unconsiderate.
I mean, it was, you know, also how long he spent there as well as one of the big kind of cost points spent. That's all I wanted to say. Back to you, buddy.
All right, well, back to me. And what I want to say is Apudo, and especially this composition here, they want to utilize the range, but they're going to give up a lot of, I guess, point presence. They're going to give up a lot of percentage points, but eventually you'd think that Apudo can find a pick, and that's what they're really looking for. And
I mean, the flashbang in, but unfortunately Rocket goes down, and they're just not quite finding those headshots. Yoshimoto kind of have the presence here, kind of have this point on lockdown. Now going to be rotating into not just those support ultimates, but crucially things like the whole Hog that keep Mega zoned as well as dead.
I'm really surprised Mega didn't opt for a Junkrat here. Like, they did go for a hero change, but McCree might not be the option here as ultimates do start to come online for both teams.
Ooh, Saint does lose the
okay.
NZNR with the connect and the Deadeye as well. And all those tools that Yoshimoto had banked up come through for naught. Mega, that's one way to do it.
It's kind of like Mega herding sheep a little bit, because Yoshimoto, they're kind of stuck on that point too. They can't exit this point. The strength is in all 6 members being bundled up together, but the weakness is also if you're bundled up together, NZNR with a great pulse bomb will take you all down.
That being said, Yoshimoto do still have a lot of those same tools. Mega, they need to get a lot of mileage out of their own ones that they were able to bank up in that time. Kind of already off to a decent start. Do have to commit those tank ultimates, but Saint's the one that gets the connection. Will not remech, but now Yoshimoto can actually get into the thick of this. Loco kind of zoned out. There's no front line to protect Apudo and NZNR, but Yoshimoto also taking their foot off the gas.
Pretty clean fight, all things considered, and especially you gotta kind of credit Loco for knocking Maffin away. That really stops a lot of the firepower from Yoshimoto. But speaking of firepower, look at these ultimates coming online for Yoshimoto. These are big.
Yeah, they could have used them a moment ago, but I do respect the reset here because they draw out some out of Mega. Yeah, Earthshatter, decent, but not quite enough just yet. However, it's the whole Hog that does the work, and now Maffin looking for the angle in. Can definitely close out with the Death Blossom, but that's only if it's needed because Loco is dead under Maffin's shotguns. And with Cyanogen God still out of the mech, Rocket going down now as well. Mega don't have the tank line to get back on the point.
Mega did even up things a little bit in percentage points.
Look at the time. Yep. Oh, but he is going to go down, having only got Saint's mech, kind of sacrificing that one to block out for the team. However, Mega not quite done. The DPS is notably NZNR with Loco here with him, are still kind of getting damage onto Yoshimoto.
This is just going both ways so very quickly as well. Apudo with that just one D-mech, getting one tank down to start things off with, is able to find the further picks. And the one difficulty of Yoshimoto Encount's composition, right, is it's actually very difficult for them to continue breaking through the gate onto the point if Mega can read the plays. If Mega are already sitting on the point, they can intercept so quickly.
Now, once again, Yoshimoto just kind of barreling towards it. They need to get that Death Blossom in, but they lose Hireman on the rotation thanks to Loco. Bombs away, says NZNR. Doesn't connect, but doesn't need to. And now Mega evening up the score. plus rotating into those ultimates. YOSHIMOTO need this Death Blossom to come up big now.
And again, compositionally for YOSHIMOTO Encounter, their biggest strength was when they had the point already, and now trying to retake the point, they're just far too slow. AKTM onto the Tracer, forcing the overtime into the final push.
They dive right on, but Saint's dead before he can remech, also getting no one with the self-destruct. Death Blossom finds no one. They weren't clustered up. A little bit too quick on the trigger finger there was Maffin, and Megan now with plenty of ultimates still to close this out if need even be, because YOSHIMOTO, no members left anywhere near the point, and Deadeye just for good measure in case anyone thought about getting close. That was not an easy one, but it was the win for Mega.
You do have to respect the kind of discipline coming out of Mega as well. We've seen the opposite when GNX and the rest of Chaos Theory decided to swap their entire team composition against Detonator Korea. That was also a different kind of discipline, but what Mega is showing here is we will continue playing dive. Apudo might change up from Genji onto McCree, and we're going to slow things down just a little bit. We can afford to give away some percentage cap, but ultimately, when we find those opening picks, when NZNR is able to hit those pulse bombs, which he did, that's how we're going to win. And once we get the cap, it's very hard again for YOSHIMOTO Encounter to get back in.
And this is where sort of playing that tank game will not work for YOSHIMOTO for sure, even though it didn't quite prove to be enough on Village. Just kind of, yeah, had to go straight up.
Neither team wanting to go Orisa Hog here either, which is the other option that a lot of teams have chosen for Sanctum. It's going to be the complete mirror AKTM Soldier versus Apudo Soldier.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of Apudo Soldier in the past. It's been very spectacular, and AKTM has got a lot to live up to.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we're kind of looking for in this one, and also just, you know, NZNR against Maffin. I mean, in every single role here, it's going to be a really interesting one. And you see actually Mega getting a little bit stuck out on the sledge here now, having to pull back, but Sage and God having to go back and forth for that one, but the first casualty going the way of Mega, but now it's YOSHIMOTO starting to hit back. Maffin still kind of staying in this, but no, Apudo untouched, and you know exactly how that one ends.
Yeah, look at that. Both soldiers, though, are doing a decent amount of damage, but only one of them is really picking up the kills here, and that man is, of course, Apudo, finding that opening pick once again, transitioning and converting onto further picks. YOSHIMOTO Encounter just can't get enough counter trades in. They didn't lose too much in terms of at least ultimate charge. They're keeping it competitive with Mega, but now they actually have to enable some of these and convert that point back in their favor.
I mean, AKTM is good, but Apudo is still Apudo, as it turns out. You already see that in the tactical visor, about to come up on rotation for Apudo. I don't think it's going to be enough of a window before AKTM comes up for it to be the big swing point, but there are plenty of other resources for Mega to throw into this one as the fight is slowly starting to break out. There's the Pulse Bomb. Ooh, does get the D-Mech on Saint thanks to the follow-up damage and also the catch on the Piloform Diva. YOSHIMOTO just kind of have to take their time on this one.
Very reserved as well. Neither team really wanted to dive in there. YOSHIMOTO Encounter just kind of waiting on the sidelines. Same with Mega, waiting for an opportunity to strike into the now with the first Pulse Bomb. Does in fact find that one. But otherwise, Mega, they had the early ultimates. They could have probably pulled the trigger just slightly sooner.
Now it kind of swings the way of YOSHIMOTO in that regard. Loco pressured out, can no longer effectively frontline, and that's the window for YOSHIMOTO. You see Mason getting into the thick of it. Apudo, though, has something to say about it all. NZNR, Maffin, both having to kind of duck off to the side. The sound barrier will allow YOSHIMOTO to last out the rest, but AKTM didn't find anything with his own tactical visor. So now it's just kind of a flat scrap with Mega having more resources available as Loco looking for a corner trap, but Transcendence from Bep looks like it'll keep AKTM alive, and Yut going down, the pressure back onto Loco. Also Saiyajin God finally dropped down. YOSHIMOTO, a little bit of an upper hand now. AKTM has to get the closeout damage very quickly, but no, dead to the Pulse Bomb of NZNR, and that might actually have been enough to seal the deal. It's pretty bare bones coming in towards the end here. But Mega, I mean, even if they lose it, they push it up to 99.
Exactly, and that's a huge advantage for Mega to be able to play with the cap goes over. 98 is even better. Mega will walk away with that one thinking, okay, what is the next plan now? We can come back in. No ultimates across the board for anybody. Mega don't necessarily know that, but they should know they can come into this one fairly even regardless.
And they can just sort of bide their time, wait for ultimates to get charged up on their part, wait for YOSHIMOTO to use up their own ultimates as they come on rotation, and Mega can just sort of wait to set up that fight that they're going to need to get that last little bit over the line. But already Loco dead. This will not be that fight straight out the gate. Saiyajin God, though, trade back onto Mason.
AKTM
He needs to get a lot of work done. Needs to get the pilot form Diva. Not quite getting the angle, but it doesn't matter. Still goes down. AKTM not finding anything else, but does mean that Mega won't get it on this fight. However, getting those resources is what they need for now.
Exactly, because they got those other 4 ultimates. Mega are still waiting for some of their own. The only sort of swing factor that Mega do have, and it might be a big one, is the fact that Apudo's tactical visor is available while AKTM's is down. And they had to lose a fight to get that advantage, so this has to be a lot now.
Oh, and Bep getting picked by NZNR, aiming true, and here it is, that tactical visor. Once again, no the sound barrier to counter it. Also, Saint zoning with the self-destruct. Will be able to remech. Hireman, though, going down right at the end. Loco can sort of stall for a while with this Primal Rage, even corner trapping Mason for a little bit here. Saiyajin God also has the self-destruct, and they pick Maffin, so Mega sort of lasting through the hard yards. Now it's Yoshimoto without resources and slowly getting picked off. They're not collected, they're not controlled, they are not even all in the same place, Yoshimoto, and that means there is no focus fire here. With that, Mega are going to be able to just drop down the last few members of Yoshimoto.
If that wasn't enough, a couple of defensive ultimates as well should they need it, but they're not, because that's going to be a fairly clean, I guess, cap on through towards the end there. Yoshimoto kept it pretty competitive in the middle there, but it just wasn't enough. And I want to talk about this man right here, because he is, for me, the X factor of this matchup. We've mentioned a lot of Apudo versus AKTM. That's been a pretty even, stalemated kind of duel so far, but what hasn't been is the fact that NZNR has been this massive factor for Mega. Maffin's been good, but he's not been NZNR.
And that's the thing, I almost feel like I'm getting a bit of a Xavier One-Shine vibe in a way, insofar as, you know, it seems to be just these marginal differences across the board that so far have resulted in Mega coming out the top of that first map at least, but also if you want to compare this to that sort of that series we just saw between Xavier, I nearly forgot the name. That was really awkward. Like, we just saw it, Xavier and One-Shine. I was like, my mind was going Xavier, and then my mouth started going like, yeah.
You went through all the 11 other teams, and you're like,
the chaos. Between Xavier and One-Shine is the point I'm making. Then that actually went the full distance and went to the full 5. So, you know, if that is kind of the tune here, then there's plenty of room for Yoshimoto to come back into this. And we do know that Mega can have some struggles on, especially those momentum-heavy maps where payloads are a factor.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because we've seen on some of those other maps, by the way, and Hollywood is going to be coming up next, when Apudo is kind of getting shut down and NZNR also isn't finding space, that's when you're shutting down both of the really big guns for Mega. Because so far, it's been Mega is Apudo specifically being met kind of by AKTM so far. Neither one, I feel, is really edging the other out that much. If I had to say, maybe Apudo, just because he's been on the winning team thus far, but at the same time, if Apudo isn't getting the job done, NZNR has. You have to look at so many of those openings. Go back to Village. How did Mega get in? Apudo, great stick, double kill on Pulse Bomb. How did Mega get in on Sanctum as well? They lost the point. They came in again. They had that great opening stick in that opening fight. Cleaned up the Diva, cleaned up the mech and the pilot, and that was just Mega running in based off NZNR's place.
Yeah, they're just finding those angles in, and it's kind of been the difference so far, at least, you know, especially when they've been in those situations where both teams sort of looking for the entry point, and it's always been Mega finding it. You see that both on the offense and on the defense, and I think it's actually counted for more when they've been on the defense. We saw that more on Sanctum than we did on Village, just because of, you know, how the progress of the map went, but they got the first fight, and from there it ended up being pretty controlled the whole way through, because they never let Yoshimoto find the entrance. They were always being the slightly more proactive of the two.
With that, we are now heading directly into Hollywood with Mega defending first. By the way, this was Yoshimoto Encount's choice of map, so Mega have chosen to defend first. Going to be that soldier defense again. We've seen this a little bit about Xavier Esports just earlier on. And Mega have a lot of they have a lot of versatility too, because we've seen Apudo play just about every DPS under the sun, and he's been pretty good at just about every DPS under the sun.
Except for Doomfist.
Actually, you're right. That is the one DPS we haven't seen him play, but I'd be willing to bet he's not half bad. He might not be Bellow, but he's not half bad.
And I mean, he doesn't need to be either. I mean, first of all, this isn't exactly a Doomfist meta. When it is, they have NZNR for that.
Only when Bellow forces it.
It's only when Bellow's playing it that it's a Doomfist meta.
But it's not
even meta. That's
but he's like forcing it, right? This is different.
Yeah.
Mega don't need to force anything. They're going to play their game plan, and that's going to be fine. AKTM playing the fire directly into Apudo's soldier. You couldn't write the storylines better.
Well, that is only if Apudo doesn't get pressured out by way of these rockets, so we're willing to see AKTM, how well he's able to execute on that. Already getting the presence on the point here as they just sort of buff it Mega back. Loco dead as they try to go in for the contest. That leaves just Sage in God. Apudo still not quite finding the sightlines on AKTM. Just looking to get rid of these tanks now. Just waiting, just jostling, losing Saint's mech, but the rocket's still kind of raining down. Mega not quite finding the angle in once again.
Look at the outcharge though, AKTM nearly onto Barrage. That could be the swing factor that YOSHIMOTO Encount's been waiting for. They are losing a lot of members though, so this needs to come sooner rather than later.
And he's just not quite got it yet, only finally getting it now, and I think maybe should just hold on to it. 2 ticks though was decent, and that's the thing. First of all, if he just like hit 1 or 2 shots a little earlier, he would have had it in a good kind of time. Also, if a couple of those members hadn't died, so Mega just barely weathering that storm.
And by the way, Mega never had Apudo fully pushed up. Apudo was kind of pressured, but he was effective. He was still impactful. He was never sort of out of the fight completely, and now he's about to get his own tactical visor. AKTM's got to be careful.
I mean, I do say weather the storm, though. It could just be that they're in the eye of the storm and it's about to hit once again in full fury as you see the dive in from YOSHIMOTO. Mega stuck a bit of these resources. There's the visor, immediately pops higher men and had already got the pulse bomb connect on Mason. AKTM still looking for an angle on this rocket barrage. He's walked right into Apudo. I don't know what he was looking for in that room. That is Mega territory.
Well, he was just looking for he was dead regardless, right? He was already stuck behind enemy lines. He needed to go down. He needed to die. But if he's going to die, take down somebody like Apudo with you. Force that respawn, because Apudo's got a longer way to go than you do. YOSHIMOTO Encount could have used that. He was definitely not going to barrage, though, because that would have been a mistake.
And an unfortunate one at that, but right now YOSHIMOTO struggling to get that last tick. And there they go, just big commit in. Sound barrier out, looking for the angle on the rocket barrage, but he's just not got anything. I mean, everyone could just kind of duck back into the doorway there and avoid all of your damage. YOSHIMOTO, the big tool that they've been banking up, finding nothing, and now Mega rotating into their own. The self-destruct from Saint won't do it. The Coalescence won't do it. AKTM, though, getting a catch on Apudo, maybe what does it, but NZNR could do it in equal measure with the Pulse Bomb on Saint's mech. Now drills down Bep, the follow-up on Saint, and YOSHIMOTO just still not finding the way in. Now a rout as they go into full retreat. They have got to get more mileage out of the next barrage.
And this is why NZNR is the X factor, right? Because even if Apudo goes down, you can count on NZNR to bring it back in line for Mega. AKTM spent a decent amount of time chasing down Apudo and finally finds him. The rocket barrage was just kind of poorly angled, and that's mostly due to the fact that you're scared of Apudo. You don't want him shutting you down mid-rocket barrage, so just angling away from any threat that he can put out.
And at 80% charge, AKTM swapped off the Farah. Now onto the Sombra. It'll have to be a protracted fight for him to actually get an EMP in this fight. And Mega, you already see, starting to rotate back into those key ultimates. Fight looking to break out now. YOSHIMOTO, they need to get some big hits.
Barrier visor.
Yeah,
this could be a big one.
Straight away in, but Apudo, not too many angles, but he doesn't need it. NZNR has done the work for him, and YOSHIMOTO just up a tree without a ladder here. Nothing to work with, no tools at their disposal. That is a shutout defense from Mega.
That being said, though, 82.6% is nothing to be shy about either for YOSHIMOTO Encount. It's fully defendable. For Mega, they're going to need a decent attack to get through that. You don't normally, you're not going to get that just off a whim either. Mega going to have to really work for even just 82%. So not completely out of it for YOSHIMOTO Encount, but we will be seeing a reasonably short Hollywood. I guess after seeing a full 5-match series, it's reasonably refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, yeah. It's a really tricky situation. I mean, neither team is out of this one yet. You know, you do have to consider for Mega, you're quite right. They may just not be able to get through at all if YOSHIMOTO get an even more convincing defense. But Mega have also set themselves up to have a, like you said, pretty quick game on their hands if they do get a good offense. So I think you almost want to go back to just how AKTM and Apudo were executing, because it's similar to what we saw in Nepal, just the extra work being done out of indeed both DPSs of Mega is so far just kind of outweighing what AKTM and Mappin are doing.
And I do prefer AKTM on the Sombra, at least for this A stage of Hollywood, for both attack and defense, right? Because The Sombra is so scalable. The Sombra can now rotate into so many other ultimates for the rest of the team members, and as one way they're going to get this full 4-minute defense really underway to stop Mega from doing anything. Also, to speak on to Yoshimoto Encounter attack just one more time as well, they kind of got into this compositional trap, right? AKTM was very invested onto this fire, was waiting for the barrage. If he'd maybe used the barrage when he got it in one of the earlier attempts and then swapped earlier to Sombra, we could have seen that EMP in play on that attack. But now we get to see the EMP in play at least on some point, assuming Yoshimoto Encounter don't get wiped out in one push here. That's the most important thing. They need a little bit of time to get this both the EMP and the defense underway, and then they should be good. So for Mega, the opening attack is so critical. Yeah,
that first one is the hardest for Yoshimoto, but like you said, if they're over that one, then they should be well set. Yeah, but that sunk cost fallacy on their own offense can't really be a factor here on the defense. So, see how the opening scrap goes as Apudo back onto the Genji.
And that's the thing, right? Because back into this AKTM versus Apudo duel, the one good hack onto Apudo could really ruin Mega's day here. That being said, though, watch NZNR. I'm actually more invested in his gameplay right now.
Just waiting, looking for the angle. Yoshimoto kind of splitting themselves a little bit, but it kind of draws Mega in a lot of different directions, and that allows Yoshimoto to get some good pick out damage on them, at least taking Loco out of the picture. And now picking NZNR is pretty much all they need there. Apudo, even if he finds Saint, they do actually get him, but they're kind of stuck in the wrong side of this one now. Apudo should go down here, not quite able to trade one last one back, but getting Mason was still something. Yoshimoto having a surprisingly hard time holding on to this one just because they have been losing that time. Mappin, he does not have any trouble connecting that one.
But we need members though. Remember, Mega only need 82.6%, so if anyone from Yoshimoto Encounter can solve things up, let the other respawners come in. Mega, they're kind of having to back out on this one. They understand they don't have the reinforcements of their own.
That was really dicey. Thankfully, that pulse bomb from Mappin has kind of saved it because he also died immediately after it connected. That's going to force a Transcendence here out of BEP now. Is Yoshimoto going to have to really dig their heels, and they have at least fully reset, as have Mega. And now we see the Dragon Blade coming into effect.
It is.
Already in. Bumps back at least to start with, though. Not finding the targets just yet. Only Saint's mech, and one's already been traded back.
Nearly EMP.
Yeah, nearly EMP. Committed out right about now, and that's got to be the one that Yoshimoto convert on, but they're not getting the kills through just yet. Only Yut, and it's traded back. Apudo still untouched on this backline. Mappin, he's got to get another Dream Pulse Bomb, or it's going to be all over for Yoshimoto here. And indeed, with Apudo picking Mappin out, it's looking like that's going to be the last hurrah for Yoshimoto's defense.
That's a problem, right? Because Lightning does not strike twice for Yoshimoto Encounter. You're not going to get another Miracle Pulse Bomb. There's not going to be a Bellow Doomfist coming up to play either, because that's a different member on a different team. And for Mega Esports, despite the kind of slow-ish sort of start there, Yoshimoto Encounter swinging back just a little bit on that defense to stop things from happening. It was still Mega, far more resilient, far quicker respawns, far higher impact ultimates, and the EMP that we waited for on that defense that we said, this could be the one that changes the game for AKTM. It wasn't, and it wasn't good enough.
And you see that X factor in those DPS members as well, because even when Yoshimoto were off to good starts, when they were opening with picks, the DPS is the few members remaining of Mega. And actually, I almost want to give more credit to the tanks here than anything else. We're still finding picks, we're staying in the fight for a very long time, and we're just giving them that way back in, even when things started off poorly, and we're always getting just a little bit more than Yoshimoto were, and that was what ended up tipping the balance both on the offense and on the defense. You've got to note how often Saint is losing his mech right at the start. Sure, you don't die, but you lose that tank pressure, you lose the health pool, you lose the defense matrix, you lose so many tools that you need if you want to actually let your DPSs go off. Let people like AKTM have free reign to charge up the EMP, let Mappin duck in and out safely without having to risk his life, without dying before throwing out pulse bombs. And it's just these little bits of difference here and there. The same things are not happening to Mega. That is a two-factor thing. It's Yoshimoto not picking those same members, and it's Mega doing a better job of keeping their tanks alive.
Let's look at it as well, because Yoshimoto also had a couple of opening picks. They were the ones who kind of got loco early on in a couple of fights. They were able to find Sage and God, so it's not like Yoshimoto had poor starts either. They had decent starts. They stopped Apudo for the very early stages of that defense. We saw in his Genji, kind of didn't get anything done, couldn't find the targets. Even when he bladed, got boot back straight away. Again, very difficult for him to get any work done, but the rest of Mega, the other 5 members coming to play, Inzin and now leading the charge onto that, they were always good enough to make sure they could get that win. And when they were sort of pushed off that A point attacking wise, they came back in really strong, really fast, really commanding, and they took that win. And that was a really short Hollywood.
And if you want to identify just another kind of difference between these DPSs, look, you're quite right. Apudo getting kind of counted out at times when he had the Dragon Blade, much like AKTM wasn't getting the same mileage out of his ultimates on DPS. The difference was AKTM was dying. Apudo was not. He didn't get anything with the Dragon Blade, but he still got kills and also things that counted as the difference.
All right, well, that is now halfway through the second